In the world of programming, functions are essential building blocks that allow us to organize code, perform specific tasks, and reuse code efficiently. In this lesson, we will explore how to define and call functions in Python, which will help you write cleaner and more manageable code. Don't worry if this feels new at first. This section covers what's a function. A function in Python is a named block of code that performs a specific task. Functions can take inputs called parameters and can return outputs. They help in breaking down complex problems into smaller, manageable pieces. This makes your code more readable and easier to debug. Defining a function, let's dig in. To define a function in Python, you use the def keyword, followed by the function name and parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you can specify parameters. The function body is indented and contains the code to be executed. Here's the syntax for defining a function. This sample defines a function. Review the implementation on the slide. Let's look at an example where we define a function to calculate the square of a number. Walk through the function definition shown in the code example. In this example, square is the function name, and it takes one parameter, number. The function returns the square of the provided number. Now we're on calling a function. Once a function is defined, you can call it by using its name followed by parentheses. If the function requires parameters, you must provide the appropriate arguments inside the parentheses. Here's how you can call the square function. The samples on screen walk through this step. Take a moment to read through them. In this case, we call the square function with the argument 5 and it returns 25, which is then printed to the console. Let's move on to functions with multiple parameters. Functions can also accept multiple parameters. This allows you to perform operations that require more than one input. The syntax remains the same, just separate the parameters with commas. Here's an example of a function that adds two numbers. This sample defines a function. Review the implementation on the slide. You can call this function like this. The samples on screen walk through this step. Take a moment to read through them. Default parameters, let's dig in. Python allows you to define default values for parameters in functions. This means that if an argument isn't provided during the function call, the default value will be used. Here's an example. This sample defines a function. Review the implementation on the slide. In this case, the greeting parameter has a default value of hello. You can call the function with or without the second argument. See the example on this slide. Pause if you want to study the details. In this lesson, we learned about functions in Python, including how to define them, call them, and use multiple and default parameters. Functions are crucial for creating organized and reusable code. Go ahead and work through this exercise. First, define a function named multiply that takes two parameters and returns their product. Also, create a function named full_name that takes two parameters, first_name and last_name, and returns the full name. Also, write a function that accepts a list of numbers and returns the maximum number from the list. Finally, define a function that takes a string and returns its length. Call this function with different strings.